Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP28 in Dubai. Ambitious, just together.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegate, distinguished guests, my name is Oliver Wieck. I'm the Secretary General of ICC Germany, and I'm honored and excited to welcome you to this high-level event on climate and clean technologies, organized by the Federation of German Industries together with ICC Germany. We all know that we are at a critical juncture in our collective journey towards a sustainable and resilient world. The challenges posed by climate change are more urgent than ever and require bold and innovative solutions that transcend borders and ideologies. The landmark agreement on loss and damage on the opening day of COP28 sent a strong and optimistic signal. But knowing what is at stake, we must admit that COP has to deliver much more. The global business community has been campaigning for years now for faster progress on climate change adaptation and mitigation. Instead, we need coordinated action by all governments to remove existing barriers to innovative climate solutions and improve the return on investment at a net zero future. To reach this goal, COP can and must deliver tangible and practical results in three areas. First, an ambitious and forward-looking global master plan which radically steps up climate action in the remaining years of this decade and accelerates a just and responsible global energy transition. It is essential to put in place effective carbon pricing systems and to identify solutions and technologies that can help accelerate emissions reductions. Second, beyond the long-standing commitment to mobilize $100 billion in climate finance for developing countries, this COP must establish a concrete post-2025 climate finance plan. What we need is a joint action plan to align the global finance system with the goals of the Paris Agreement. This includes an enabling environment for the private sector investment and a climate finance that is not only available but also affordable for emerging countries. And third, while at Article 6 of the Paris Agreement itself does not provide for a global carbon price, we certainly need a functioning cross-border carbon market that creates a more coherent multilateral approach to carbon pricing. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking on behalf of global business and industry at the opening plenary last Thursday, Esther Béger, CEO of the global biotech company Novozymes, said that, and I quote, "Business world is facing obstacles that are bigger than us. To succeed, we need a policy framework that facilitates investment and reduces regulatory barriers to developing and deploying new sustainable technologies at scale." And that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. We are delighted to hear directly from heads of companies that are driving new technologies about how they see low-carbon future and what challenges need to be addressed at this year's COP. But first of all, it is now my honor to invite to the stage Mr. Stefan Wenzel, Parliamentary Secretary at the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Change. Thank you very much for taking your time today, and thank you very much for hosting this event. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me, and thanks a lot everybody to come to this very interesting event. Dear Holger Lösch, dear Mr. Lauber, Mrs. Osadnik, dear Miguel Borrego, dear Helmut von Struve, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. This COP is a place for negotiations about the Paris Agreement, but it's also an innovation hub for future technology, for future solutions, for the challenges to bring all this in reality, what's in the goals of the Paris Agreement. Science is clear. Today we are not on track to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 above pre-industrial levels. Countries' current emissions pledges would cause global heating of nearly 3 degrees Celsius in this century. We will have the global stock take. This is a time where we look at all the NDCs of all countries all over the world, and then we see what is how much of the way we achieved already. But we all know there's a lot more to do. But we have most of the technologies we need for the future. We have to go further on in research to get better and better and better, to get more efficient and efficient and efficient, to find more innovative solutions. But we have the ground, we have the technologies we need, and so it's very interesting to discuss this morning. And we have to quickly and radically cut emissions and phase out fossil fuels. And yet there's good news too. We do have these technical solutions at hand to reach net zero. They are affordable and they can be rapidly deployed. In Germany, in 2023, we will most likely see renewables providing over 50% of our electricity. Globally, renewables accounted for an impressive 83% of power capacity added last year, 83%. And that's mostly market-driven, because from all our countries all over the world, there are only a couple of them have a climate protection law like we have in Germany. Not everybody has a feed-in tariff like we had for 20 years. And we have also not in every country a CO2 price system. But we see 83% of investment in new power capacity for renewables. And that's the reason why I say it's mostly market-driven. According to the IEA, in 2023, worldwide investments in clean energy technologies is significantly outpacing spending on fossil fuels. Clean energy is moving faster than many people realize. Ladies and gentlemen, as these global investment trends show, not only since the introduction of the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States, the global race for the development, production and deployment of climate technologies has unfolded in full speed and will get even more competitive in the years to come. As the majority of industrialized and emerging economies have set out clear targets to become carbon neutral by 2050, at the latest, more and more businesses worldwide realize that the global market for climate technologies is expected to grow significantly, offering vast economic opportunities. This transformation affects the entire industry sector. Electrolyzers, electric vehicles, green steel, batteries, grids can soon be standard business models, and we want to see German companies in the lead. Yet, this is not a surefire success. We have to keep and accelerate this momentum. It is crucial to provide reliable, ambitious and long-term orientated framework conditions, putting a price on carbon and support industries with the transformation. We need good frameworks to have the possibility to have bankable business cases and have FIDs too, at last. Especially the hard-to-abate basic materials industries such as steel, cement and chemicals need a supporting framework to master transition. These materials are cornerstones of the global energy transition. Clearly, we want to continue to produce these goods in Germany. These are strategic industries that provide jobs for thousands of skilled workers. Thus, the decarbonization of the heavy industry is crucial for us. As you know, our government is currently preparing and implementing a comprehensive decarbonization package for the industry. Crucially, the process of decarbonizing our industry must take place globally. Without this, we will not be able to keep the 1.5 target within reach. Therefore, we need a level playing field, a global level playing field to ensure fair competition. This week, the Climate Club, initiated by Germany, was officially launched here at the COP by Chancellor Scholz. We have already 36 members from all over the world. It is indeed intended to help create an international framework in which green industrial products, green lead markets become the standard business model. We hope this COP will also see a clear commitment to triple renewable energy and double energy efficiency globally. We see that 120 countries of the world already signed a pledge. You as German businesses, as technology providers of windmills, heat pumps and efficiency solutions, electrolyzers, or a lot of other innovative products will have a key role to play in making this goal a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm convinced tackling climate change, improving policies and business frameworks only works if we as a society work together as a team. Governments, business, startups, civil society and science have to collaborate openly and critically, exchange ideas and send out the signal that the global transformation is not only a mere challenge, but also offers enormous economic opportunities. I'm looking forward to the discussion. My colleague will be with you because I can't stand for the whole discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, State Secretary Wenzel. My name is Holger Lösch. I'm Deputy Director General of BDI, Federation of German Industries, and it's my pleasure now to moderate the ensuing panel. I would like to ask my panelists up on the stage, and I would like with you, Mrs. Araceli Fernandez from the International Energy Agency. You're the head of Technology Innovation Unit. Then Mr. Uwe Lauber. Uwe Lauber, the CEO of MAN Energy Solutions and a member of the German National Hydrogen Council. Mr. Miguel Lopez, the CEO of ThyssenKrupp AG, a company which surely is in the middle of it all, in chances and risks. Dr. Viktoria Osadnik, she's the CEO of E.ON, and she's in charge of digitalization and innovation. And last but not least, Helmut von Strube, he's the CEO Middle East of Siemens AG. Well, I don't have to say a lot of words about this. So, I will switch over here. Give this to you. Well, I don't want to make a lot of words. I mean, everything we are talking about since years is, first of all, Germany has committed itself and German industry has committed itself to help to reach climate neutrality goals. The second thing I would say is German industry is really sure that we can help other countries, other players to become climate neutral by technologies we are developing. And the third thing I would say, we would like to make a good business out of this. So what we really would like to do is to become market leaders or have a strong market positions in the markets which we are going to see in the future which we all believe in. I would like to start our round with a look at the current state of climate and clean energy technology. So what we want to discuss today is, where do we stand? So where are the technologies at this moment, where are they going, and perhaps in the end have a view in the far distant future, which is 2050, which is not so far, but from today's perspective, it's quite far. I would like to start with you, Mrs. Fernandez. So the IEA published a so-called net zero by 2050 scenario, which says it's still achievable according to your World Energy Outlook. And so the interesting message is that the existing technologies will play a very important role and can do a lot of the job, but there's still something missing. So my question for you would be now, what can these currently available technologies really provide, and where are we perhaps a bit missing out at the moment?
Thank you very much, and thanks again for the invitation. A pleasure to join this distinguished panel. So indeed, one of the main purposes for which the International Energy Agency updated the net zero emissions by 2050 roadmap in September this year, which was actually originally developed in 2021, was because we've been monitoring a lot of changes, both on markets, on policies, and on clean technology development. And we really felt that there was a need to make this update to really understand and make an important focus on, what could be the feasibility of reaching this ambition that was set back in 2021 for 2030 in particular, to keep this type of trajectory alive. What we saw actually is that there were certain reasons, in a way, some aspects of the context, of course, when we look at the geopolitical situation, what happened over the last few years, and emissions that kept rising were of a concern. At the same time, just looking at markets and technology trends, that was really a very good point of optimism when we look at what we've seen in electric vehicle markets, for example, what we keep seeing in renewable electricity, particularly for solar PV, what we've seen as well in certain markets for heat pumps, for example. So electrification was really a driving force for clean technology development that was really making still alive, in a way, that type of trajectory. At the same time, what we saw is that already with existing technologies, some of the ones I've mentioned, for example, but also doubling efforts on energy efficiency, as has been highlighted, accompanying as well with certain behavioral aspects, but also making a big push on reducing methane emissions, we could really get quite far by 2030. And this would mean that by pushing all these different levers, we could get to around 80% of the efforts in terms of emission reductions that could be required for that scenario. But at the same time, when we look at those technologies that are not yet on the market at scale, when we think about process routes to really decarbonize some of the, let's say, production of certain materials, as has been mentioned in the introduction, that are really key ingredients of our societies, when we look at how we could really produce these low-emission fuels that would be needed to decarbonize areas of transport that are not so easy to electrify, like shipping or aviation, for example, there we really see that we need to keep working on developing and bringing these technologies to market scale and to push that forward later on. But at the same time, back in 2021, when we looked at this analysis, we quantified that in 2050, almost 50% of the emission reductions that will be required in that scenario will need to come from technologies that are not yet on the market, are really at prototype or demonstration stage. Whereas when we updated the analysis now in September, what we saw is that this share was reduced to 35%, because we've seen a lot of developments, for example, on batteries, with new designs coming in that, again, gives us more independence from critical minerals. A lot of developments, for example, on electrolyzers, with solid oxide electrolyzers designs coming really at greater scale that have really knock-on effects on things like steel production, for example, and other areas. So a lot of reason as well for optimism on that front. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, we have a very impressive set of industry leaders up here from 4 German companies who are really probably a major part of the switch from 50 to 35%, which we need to fix with some other technology. So I would like to ask the industry leaders here on the panel, so for a first round, so what would you, if somebody asks you, like me, what is the core of innovation your company is bringing to the table, the core of technology to achieve these very ambitious targets we have set ourselves? So what would be your answer? And I would start with Mr. Lauber.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. I mean, basically, I would like to answer it. We have 5 pillars in order to drive decarbonization. First of all, one of our main customers is the shipping industry, and these large shipping vessels sailing on the oceans. There are more than 20,000 vessels in operation equipped with our engine, and they're going to be in operation for the next 20 years. So electrification for these vessels, like you said before, is not the option. So we need to think about alternative fuels, whether it's synthetic methane, whether it's ammoniac or methanol, it doesn't matter. But here we have the solution already. It's in place, specifically on methanol side and on gas, on CH4. This is available, and the ammoniac engine is sitting in our test facility in Copenhagen, ready to go in 2 years from now. So we are on the way to support our customers. So new build is, I would say, is an easier thing. Building a new vessel, being equipped with this new type of technology is one side, but the question always is, what are we going to do with the existing vessels? Like I said before, 20,000 vessels in operation, and the ship owner wants to use this vessel. So retrofits are a clear focus from our side. That costs money, and quite a lot, and somebody has to pay for it. So at the end of the day, we as the end consumer probably may end up with higher freight rates, which we're going to see. But the business case is there. The t-shirt we're going to buy being made in Asia somewhere, or the shoes we have here being produced in Asia, the price will increase by a couple of cents. So I think the business case is quite natural. It's given there. The second pillar, which I would like to say, is we need to think about alternative options for heat. Heat in industrial areas, in industry areas, companies like BASF, Covestro, and other industry sectors, you need everywhere heat. Today, heat is being made with coal, with oil, or with gas. So also here, electrification is really key. And with that, of course, we need to have the ramp up of electricity, of green electricity. You mentioned also heat pumps. We have built the biggest heat pump in the world in Denmark, so the proof points are there already. And the next thing is that goes in line with the shipping industry, with these alternative fuels. Hydrogen plays a key role. So PEM electrolyzers, so hydrogen production is really key. And we need to step out of the phase where we are today, the laboratory phase, towards industry scale. Quantity, we need massive production needs to be ramped up on hydrogen, because this is really the basis for everybody, for alternative fuels, but maybe also for steel. That's really key. Here, the technology is more or less ready, but we need to stop talking only about building these plants, but scale it up, make it real, make it happen, and go away from this bloody PowerPoint discussion. And specifically in Germany, we are talking quite a lot. In other areas of the world, we got to build it. We're going to build a plant producing methanol together with Porsche. Siemens is also part of this game here in Chile. Why are we not starting, because we have the technology in Germany, why are we not starting to build up larger plants in Germany or in Europe? The potential is also there. But the business, and it is a business for us, otherwise we would not do that. The business is being pushed outside of Europe. And if Europe does not understand that and stops the talk and walks the talk, then we will do it anywhere else.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez, I mean, ThyssenKrupp is a fascinating company, which on the one hand is really experiencing the risks and the challenges of decarbonizing its core business, steel. And on the other hand, is one of the big players in the electrolyzer business. So incorporating both of these sides of the transformation. So what, if you look at your company, so what do you think are the core pillars for your way to decarbonizing and being successful with that?
Thank you.
Oops. It should work.
Thank you. I believe it's very important to understand. All good is 3.
I think we overwhelmed the technician.
Thank you.
Oh, works.
Okay, now we are talking.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. I mean, we are on a fantastic journey and very important and full of responsibility because of, as you said before, we have a great contribution to do on decarbonization. So our steel business in Germany is accounting for 2.5% of all the CO2 emissions in Germany. So it's a huge responsibility to start with this action. That's the reason why we initiated the build of a direct reduction plant, replacing one of the blast furnaces that we have in Duisburg. And this started already this year and should be completed by 2027, so that as of 2028 we would use hydrogen for this first blast furnace. We do invest 3 billion euro, and we had a very good cooperation with the German government, with Mr. Wenzel and Mr. Habeck, the team, and also the government of North Rhine-Westphalia, and we got the support of 2 billion in order to be the front runner in Germany for developing a hydrogen industry and for getting the infrastructure also done and not suffer from the high prices that we will have in the beginning. This is a perfect example on how to play the public-private partnership. And of course now the next steps are, how do we get now the hydrogen, by when? So we are talking to all possible partners. And you know, I think the biggest challenge, to your point, in Germany is how to get competitive renewable energy, right? Because the competitive renewable energy right now is in other places in the world. And that's the reason why, in order to get competitive hydrogen, in order to be doing competitive steel that is green, you need competitive renewable energy. And this is something that we should never forget. And please think about last year, the plan on a worldwide level should have been installments of 1,000 gigawatts of renewable energy, and we did worldwide 300. So that's one of the major points, and Mr. Wenzel was alluding to it in his presentation. I mean, the growth has been very strong, but nothing compared to the plan. Coming back to us as ThyssenKrupp, of course, we want to be the front runner here. We are playing together with the government and many partners to build this infrastructure. At the same time, it is very clear that we will not be able to finance the replacement of all the other 5 blast furnaces to DRI. So this is something that we will see how to manage that and to organize also the value chain a little bit different. All what you just said about green transformation solutions, technologies that we have, probably there's another question to answer that.
Okay, Mr. Osadnik, you just said what we need is competitive green electricity, energy in general, so electrons and molecules. I mean, E.ON is one of the companies who is, of course, one of the largest utilities in Germany and in the middle of this game. But What we need is a lot more electricity to make hydrogen in the end and to directly electrify things. And of course, all of this has to be delivered by a gradually more smart grid. So we have a lot of hen and egg problems. So we need electrons, we need molecules, we need grids and infrastructures to transport them. So from an E.ON perspective, where would you say E.ON is standing today, and what's your contribution to this transformation?
Yeah, thanks. I heard electrification so many times. I feel a lot under pressure. Yeah, because actually it is, like, if you really want to decarbonize, it is about electrification. And for us as a European utility, actually we have three levers to do that. First is grid. So we are operating 1.5 million kilometers of power grids in Europe. Second is democratizing the role of the consumer. So if you have your own apartment, if you have your home, if you have your car, like each single person plays a very, very significant role in decarbonization. If we give this power to each single person, which is a lot about digitalizing. And the third is smart cities with low temperature heat grids and stuff like that. So coming to your first point, I think the one thing where looking around in Europe where we operate and looking where we sit today discussing Germany, I think the most important thing is we need to be brave enough in Germany to be pragmatic. And we really lack on that. If I look into electrifying, so it's really nice if we create enough sustainable energy, which we don't, but even if we would, we need to transport it. So now E.ON as a company, we just connected the 1 millionth renewable source to our grid, 1 millionth. So until 2030, if the plans are right, we need to connect 6 million. We are planning to invest 33 billion just to make this possible until 33 billion until 27, just to connect, if we are allowed to connect. And this is about being pragmatic. I mean, we are desperately trying to connect. We are desperately trying to be flexible. Getting the permits to build is crazy because we are not pragmatic. We need to decide what we want. If we are serious on decarbonization, we need to be serious. We need to get rid of part of the administration we have. We need to get rid of part of the discussion. If we discuss the intelligent consumer and we give the consumer a role to play, at least first or second question is, yes, what do we do about the taxes? Because then consumers start to trade electrons. Yeah, if they trade electrons, if this cuts in our grids, it's beautiful. So what do we bring? We bring digitalization. We bring the knowledge to build grids. We bring the knowledge with digital twins to build grids. And we bring digital platforms for our consumers. And we have some IP on creating smart, low-carbon cities. So that's where we are. And I think it's a good discussion, and it's going to be an ongoing discussion on being pragmatic as well.
Mr. von Strobe, I mean, I have not to say a lot about Siemens. Siemens is the epitome of German technology, innovation, and you have so many fields where Siemens is acting on. Something we are talking a lot about, but not really elaborating on is for example, the energy efficiency thing. And as Siemens, of course, is very well known for automation and making things more effective. So how would you describe, which is a very hard task to describe, what is Siemens' contribution towards making the world more effective, more efficient? So a few thoughts from your side.
I'll give my best. But first of all, the 90% of our products are actually there to support our customers in really reaching certain environmental targets. And it's also clear that it's not one silver bullet that really does it all, does the trick. It's really across the whole value chain. And I think what my fellow panelists have just been elaborating is really extremely important to understand the complexity. When we talk about, and you said it, it's not only about decarbonization, it's really also about efficiency. efficiency in production processes, agility, that helps you to serve resources and preserve resources and recycling quotas. On the other hand, the electrical grid. I mean, I think the number was 1.5 terawatt of renewable energy that is not yet connected, something like this. But a huge number anyway, where you have, with advanced grid technology, the ability to really increase the electric capacities even in the existing grid with software solution that we can deploy, which makes it easier from a time perspective. You can deploy it quicker, and also from a capex point of view, you can do it faster. Energy efficiency is one of the critical aspects, because this is in a lot of cases very easily achieved. If you work on existing buildings, existing infrastructure, and you support energy efficiency technology, you can save. And that's the other aspect that is in a lot of cases extremely important, because it saves you money. It increases the ability to then also finance the measures that you're taking. And these are technologies that we are deploying not only in Europe, but especially also here now in the Middle East, for example, where ministries and regulatory bodies are supporting us in deploying this technology in existing buildings, but also then in new cities that are being built, like Expo City here, where we have a key aspect of showcasing how, we call it the real world and the digital world, are connected, with the aim of really reaching then with technology the task of reducing emissions, increasing efficiency, and also make it more comfortable for people to live in. Because then, as you said, the consumer, they need to buy in. And I think that is also one of the exciting aspects of this COP28. When you talk about 70,000 visitors coming, they have a chance of understanding how technology can really contribute, and how the aspect of really working together will enable you to change. And I think that is something where we are happy to, and we have our own showcase in the Green Zone, where you can see all the various technologies that we have available to create not only transparency, but also then to act and to deliver. And I think that is something that is crucial for us on the road to reach net zero in 2030 and 2050.
Thank you. Mrs. Fernandez, you mentioned the energy crisis and, of course, the geopolitical tensions. So I would like now to enter in, after we heard that a lot is on the way and companies are really committed, but we heard a few points, and I will reiterate on them, what is hindering companies to really get or become successful with that. But from your perspective, from IEA perspective, so the global energy crisis we've seen, well, it was not really caused by the Russian-Ukraine war, but it basically made it much worse, and the geopolitical tensions in general. So what would you as IEA say, how much does this prevent us from really getting really fast and better and reaching our targets earlier?
That's it. Yeah, so in a way, I mean, we've seen some kind of tension in, contrasting forces. So on one hand, indeed, the global energy crisis has caused much more volatility on energy prices, has increased not only the prices of energy commodities, but also has all these knock-on effects across supply chains on the availability of different commodities that are crucial, as well as raw materials from different activities. So this has also had an impact. At the same time, what we've seen also is that the response of quite a few countries has been really to choose the clean trajectory, and so to put measures in place that could enhance energy security while also advancing in the clean energy transformation. And we've seen this quite clearly in Europe, for example, where actually when all this came about, and just right after the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, I mean, the IEA put forward different kind of emergency 10-point plans, really to look at what strategies could help quickly reducing reliance on oil and gas, particularly from Russian imports. And actually at the time what we saw is that around 50%, for example, of the Russian gas imports could be reduced by energy efficiency measures, by fuel switching measures, particularly towards electrification, with technologies that could be already available. I mentioned heat pumps before. And by really accelerating some of the plans to, again, enhance electricity grids, etc. And actually what we saw, looking back at what happened in 2022, we saw actually 40% of the reduction were achieved, and they were mostly due to this type of measures. So in a way, in times of crisis is where, creativity comes in, and we've really seen that in most cases, the response has been towards, again, giving a push on some of these technologies. Of course, it's important to keep in mind the volatility that we still see in markets, where, for example, again, energy efficiency can really help be more resilient against that type of volatility. But that's something we need to really keep monitoring and making sure that we avoid locking in technologies that could really bring more emissions into the system.
So, working with all of these companies for many, many years in BDI, you really feel that the will and the commitment to really tackle these problems and to reach these goals is very, very strong. On the other hand, having all of these many, many talks and meetings, you always see there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of problems which are making it really tough to reach these goals. And you mentioned a few. I mean, you said there's not one silver bullet. That's probably the synonym for a bit more technology neutrality. You talked about talking, not starting. I would say yes, so we have to do things. To be more pragmatic, this is very important. This is what we hear all the time. And then, of course, it's sometimes really getting crazy about permitting regulatory processes which are making things extremely slow and extremely extensive. And so I would like to have a round with you for now, from your perspective, if you could name 2 or 3 things you really would like to have changed immediately to make you reach your goals easier and more efficient, and of course more profitable. What would these be? And I would start with you, Mr. Lopez. Of course, there is a lot of steel being produced around the globe. I could imagine that a sort of a level playing field with your competitors would perhaps be one issue you would see or you would like to see solved.
Well, that's true. Before I come to this question, let me just make a remark on permits. Don't forget that permits is something that relates very much with the citizens, with the population. If you want to install something somewhere, you probably get no agreement with the citizens that live there. So we should not rely only on politicians to blame them for bureaucracy. The bureaucracy many times is installed by the citizens because we don't want that to happen. So just one remark for clearly addressing, it's everyone here individually that can make a difference by accelerating without putting no recourse in the processes that then need to be going through administration. That's a very important point to my understanding, because I've seen many examples where things were initiated by companies and the governments, and then it was stopped by the citizens themselves. So this is the remark on the permit side, that we can improve the administration, no doubt, but the citizens must be also in favor of these changes. To your point, I mean, it's absolutely crucial that we are playing with the same rules. Of course, our target will be to get access to very competitive renewable energy, and we also need to be clear about how to measure that the product that you are getting into the markets are really green. So we have been working together with Siemens on what is a blockchain solution so that the coil is identified as a green one. This is with Seagreen. I make the ad for you, Helmut. So there are opportunities there to buy technology, make sure that the comparable product that is imported into a certain geographical zone is really comparable from a fair competition point of view. Do we have to work on this? For sure. The current existing rules, and that's the reason why we are talking about CPAM and so on, the current existing rules are not enough to ensure this fair competition. This is a big point. On the other hand, there is another thing beyond this fair competition, which is scaling technologies. You have been mentioned this before. If we talk, and you as well, when we talk about our technologies for decarbonization, we have a big task in front of us, because we do electrolyzers, we do all the plants for green chemicals, we do decarbonization of cement. Don't forget, cement is accounting for 8 to 10% of the overall CO2 emissions in the world, and we do bearings, but we need specifically the first two, scale them up. The technology is there, but it's not somehow industrialized to the level that we need. Last remark, just think about it. This DRI plant that I mentioned before will use 140,000 tons a year of green hydrogen. NEOM is 210,000 tons a year. And this is the largest installation right now for green hydrogen. Think about it, how much we need to scale in order to get the demand done.
Yeah, I mean, the scaling, of course, will always something which is at the core of the discussion about how do we get a global hydrogen market up and running. So I was there like 2 years ago, or 3 years? No, 21. So we opened a 10 megawatt electrolyzer in close to Cologne. So, but if you're traveling around and talking to other countries about electrolyzers or hydrogen, so people just talking about gigawatts. So, but I heard that before Christmas we want to open the next largest electrolyzer in Germany, which is like 20 megawatt. So my question would be, how can we really scale up? What is hindering, especially if you look from your perspective in the National Hydrogen Council at this global hydrogen market? What is hindering us from really scaling up this market and, of course, make the cost aggressive?
I mean, from a cost perspective, of course, the input source to produce economically viable hydrogen is electricity. And looking at Germany itself, I think it's fair enough to say it's maybe not the best place to do that in large scales. Nevertheless, in the northern part of Germany, we have a lot of wind, right? So still there, we could produce via windmills electricity in the range between 2 or 3 cents. Transportation costs for hydrogen plays also a significant role. We have a lot of projects outside of Europe, in the Middle East, in Australia, but also, like I said before, in Chile. And if we have then to transport hydrogen from Chile to the end consumer, which is in Germany or in Europe, so to say, you have also to consider the transportation costs. And the transportation costs are not nothing. You have to convert it maybe to ammonia, to methanol, to a carrier, which is transportable. So that also costs money. So that's why I'm saying in Germany or in Europe, we have the technology, like you said before, electrolyzers. We have a company, we're going to build a company up in the northern part of Germany. We can do that. Power-to-X plant in Welte, 6.3 megawatt today, is the biggest one which is in operation. And 6 megawatt, while we need gigawatt of hydrogen production factories. That is really key. So I'm not saying we should stop it in Germany. We should accelerate as much as we can, as profitable as we can. But also we in Germany, we need to collaborate with countries like countries in the Middle East, in the Sun Belt. So hydrogen production will not be a sole effort of Germany, of Europe itself. We need partners. We need strong partners to build up the supply chain. What I can say is really in Europe and Germany, like the company sitting here, we have the technology is there. But economy of scale is key in order to drive down the costs for kilogram of hydrogen of around about $1. That is really the goal. And only scaling up with the existing technology might not be enough. We need to find different ways to bring the capital cost down, to increase efficiency, the output of the electrolyzers. So, but if we don't do that, if we are still in the range of 10 or 20 megawatt plants, that's not enough. So we need to do the next step, the next level, 100 megawatt plant, 200 megawatt plant, and then go maybe one further on to a gigawatt size. And then we will see with the technology that we can drive down costs. And while doing that, of course, efficiency has to go up as well, and hydrogen costs will go down. I'm quite sure synthetic fuel, whatever it might be, everything, all base is going to be hydrogen. But with the economy of scale, we can drive down costs to a level which everybody can afford it. So it should not be the champagne, it should be just the water.
Yeah, I mean, the economy of scale already worked quite well with the renewables. I mean, when I remember when we started with the EEG, so the price for the kilowatt hour, from today's perspective, would say it's just too expensive to start. So we have to start and really get to scale, and the renewables have shown the way. So if you look at you both, you are both in very much on this digital innovation side, which is so important for the grids and for the Internet of Things and all of these issues. What, from your perspective, is hindering you from really getting these technologies at work quickly?
First, I don't know. Yeah, it works. First, I don't think anybody's hindering us because we do it. I think you are doing digital twins for whatever industry. We are having digital twins, and actually this is something where I think we can export a lot of knowledge and to make it accessible to all countries. Like how do you plan grids best? How do you optimize them on digital twins? So I think we have that. The one thing, like you said, one thing to wish. The one thing where I'm really struggling is if I look into couple of the European countries and to the US, a lot of households, like, very simply have smart meters. Because with the smart meter, you own your own energy, so you can sell, you can buy, you can store electrons, you have a smart meter, you get money or you pay money, and you share the smart meter data and the statistics with your provider, which gives the provider of the grid a chance to plan and the provider of the energy a chance to plan ahead. In Germany, we are in a place where I think other countries in Europe have been 10 years ago. So now we start again with the smart meter discussion because, and this comes to your permit thing, I completely agree that we need to take our customers and our people with us. But nobody asks for the data regulation we have in Germany because GDPR is valid in all of Europe. Funnily enough, most of the European countries managed to have smart meters like 10 years ago. So we have dumb smart meters and we are rolling out with a velocity which is not helping. So one wish, be completely unbureaucratic. If a consumer wants a smart meter, why don't we just give this poor consumer a smart meter without all this cost and regulation and control and mistrust, etc., which we are having in Germany. Because I think that's really costing all of us a lot of money, because it would also make electricity for industry cheaper if we could manage and plan consumers in a better way. Smart meters.
Yeah, I like the word dump smart meters. That's interesting. Mr. von Strobel.
Yeah, let me come to the point that you, Miguel, made. In one of the critical aspects, transparency. And we have with Seagreen, we call it Seagreen, a solution that actually enables you to create transparency. And we have spoken a lot about Scope 1 and Scope 2 targets. It creates transparency in the Scope 3 level upstream when you look at the supply base. And Dr. Laubner, you mentioned transport, green steel, so key requirements for your product. So what we do is we measure with blockchain technology, protecting IP rights of the different suppliers, the product carbon footprint of your product. Be it now one of the cars, we have one of the examples standing at our booth with looking at, for example, a battery. But it can be any product that you develop, and with the transparency, you can then really specifically target your suppliers and create an overview of which supplier is providing what carbon footprint in the related product. And then the decision comes to the consumer. That might be B2B or B2C, where the consumer himself or herself can then decide, based on the transparency that has been created, do I want to go for a product that has lesser carbon footprint and I might pay a little bit more, or do I go for the other one? And this is together with our Siemens Accelerator platform, which is an open IoT platform, which provides then solutions for digital twins, be it in grids, in factories, in buildings, and in the whole infrastructure mobility, that provides you the different solutions in a very, let's say, open and transparent way. And if you look at it from my point, what I would be wishing for, and I think it was mentioned at in the beginning, it's really a global carbon pricing model that creates a fair level playing field for the different actors and the different suppliers.
Yeah, that's an old and very dear wish, the global CO2 price, but we all of course see, and this is going to be very palpable here at the COP again, that it's a long way to go. So, but talking about price, we have to talk about money. I would like to ask you sometimes, so sitting in discussions with representatives from the financial sector, so there's very often you hear, oh, so the financial sector has to show the real economy, so the industry, how it works with sustainability. And you said 3 billion, 2 billion from governments. So my question to all of you, how do we really get the investments done? So we at BDI did this study with Patrick Herhold from BCG. So we came up with a number of about 860 billion euros necessary in additional investments to reach German 2030 targets. That's a lot of money, and this will not only come from governments. It's absolutely impossible, and these days we all see how difficult it really is to make governments help them. So my question, what is your view on what could or should change in this investments in this financial markets to make this transformation work? Yeah.
Maybe to start with, I mean, if we mean or if we believe that climate change costs nothing, it's quite obvious. It costs a lot of money. So I think, and that's one of the biggest problem, and we need to finance it. And therefore, a lot of our customers, they are asking for business cases. If there are no subsidies, why should they change it? Why should they change and go to, let's say, green steel, for instance? Yeah? On the other side, doing nothing is not the alternative. So on a global basis, or at least what Europe is doing, pushing towards a CO2 tax, I think that's the right decision. Yeah? So go into this direction with taxes, So if somebody is emitting CO2, he has to pay. If he's doing it in a different way, he's going to release it. So that's a kind of a mechanism which works. On the other side, the question is, are we losing competitiveness? And this is also the case, because in other areas of our world, they don't have these CO2 taxes. I mean, we are sitting here in Dubai. Do they have a CO2 price? You all know it. Huh? So we have to have a kind of a mechanism on a global basis. But how do we do that? The shipping industry is a global business, our main customer. How can we force them to change their propulsion system towards an alternative solution, so to say? Huh? If there are not global rules there, and if nobody is pushing towards decarbonization, they will not do that. They will not do that. At the end of the day, somebody has to pay for it. So these mechanisms, CO2 price, I think that is the right thing to do. But we have to also convince other countries to enter into a kind of a mechanism which is supporting towards decarbonization. There's no other way. And on a car, for instance, our mother company, if they're going to use green steel, a Volkswagen Golf would be round about 500 euros higher in price. If somebody's going to pay a Golf, which costs around about 50,000 euros, and he pays a premium for that one and shows this premium, I think that can be a smart way also from a marketing perspective to sell the product because it has a green touch.
Mr. Osatnik?
I think I have 2 points. I think the one thing is this money from government thing, because this feels like we all have governments who are producing money. They don't. The citizens work, they create a value, they pay taxes, we have governments. Which comes to small problem in Europe that less and less citizens work, so at one point this will create a real problem. So if we persuade the citizens that we really, really need to stop climate change, they might want to work and create this money. This is not a government thing, this is a citizen's thing. Somebody needs to earn, like really physically earn this money. This would be my number one thing, because we are so easily always saying, hey, just get subsidies and we need to subsidize all the industries. Well, we are saying, yeah, we need to have more money because we can't pay for our 33 million until 27, so we need to have return on capital. Yes, somebody needs to pay for it. And I think this would lead me to my second point. As Europe and especially as Germany, I think as a society we need to have a clear view which industries will succeed in paying this way, which industries will give the jobs for people to work, not 4 days but perhaps 5 days a week, to pay this way. And this is super serious, because this is like from a politics perspective, this is not a nice thing to discuss, but we need to have this discussion. There are industries which will be very, very difficult to keep in a country, which won't be able to create all sustainable energy which it's using for the industry. But if we are serious on that, and if we are honest, and if we are pragmatic, I think there's a good way to do that. But then we need to invest into the right industries and not just spread everything and say, hey, we compensate whatever comes in terms of cost, not just for electricity, but for labor, etc. So I think we need to be serious. If we are serious about reducing carbon, we need to be serious on which industries do we want, in which continent, in which country, and where do we put subsidies, and how do we persuade our citizens to pay for them. There must be a good reason.
I just want to give an example of what we have done here in the UAE, and it goes towards the topic of business case. The UAE in 2020 launched a program called Operation 300 Billion, and that means they want to double their industrial contribution to the overall GDP by more or less from 120 to 300 billion. And for this, they were looking into, with the aim of diversifying their industry away from oil and gas. And they were looking into the industrial base, what they had established. And we worked with the ministry together to do an assessment of the industrial base that exists in the UAE. And we developed a specific index that allows you to assess the factory not only on the level of digital readiness, but also in regards of sustainability, with an aim of saying, okay, you have a certain level. What are the technologies? In some cases, even basic automation requirements that need to be deployed in order to make you a competitive player that not only then serves the local market here, but then also allows you to export in a competitive way. And the ministry, we have done more than 275 assessments, and there is then support coming from the ministry, from Emirates Development Bank and other financing institutions for those specific companies to support them in the technology deployment. You create the awareness with the management, you create the awareness with the different stakeholders on the even down to the shop floor, and then you start creating a business plan. You create a roadmap and a timeline. And that enables them to really then deploy the relevant technology supported by digitalization. And the same is not only done here in the UAE, but the same aim is now also for deploying this in other countries, where you maybe help communities to build up their economies in a sustainable and respectful way, supported by then fundings that are coming from banks or from governments.
Mr. Lopez, it's very obvious that other parts of the world are, trying to incentivize transformation. They do it in a different way. So there was a lot of talk about the American IRA, very easy tax credit system. So might become a problem for the American budget one day, perhaps. But for the time being, it really has developed a lot of suction for capital, for installments, for machinery, for labor force, and so on. So what would you say, looking at those large investments you have to do, what would be perhaps a better or another way to make these investments happen, and which role could the financial markets play in there?
Well, I'm convinced that for this huge transformation, the initial cost need to be really coming from a private and public partnership. You know, coming back to our 2 billion, those 2 billion are, you know, if you take an asset and you replace this asset by another one, it needs to be competitive. I mean, even the same IRR would probably not be enough, but would be a good starting point, internal rate of return, right? If you have to apply a decarbonized asset, and you know, because of renewable energy not as competitive at the point in time as we need for doing it, the climate change is not negotiable, right? So then this is, for me, the clear decision to be made. We do that because we need to fight the climate change. And in order to do that, if I need competitive pricing from renewable energy, which is also then green hydrogen, green ammonia, all these ingredients, then we need to do that fast and not wait for companies taking many years of finding ways how to deal with it because they cannot afford it, right? So I think it's very important that this front runner, this initial investment thing, is done with public-private partnership. The US, they have understood because they are fast, you know, and they have simply installed it. And you know, they have a good credit rating. You know, we have also a good credit rating in Europe, almost. So we should go for it and not wait. This, I'd mentioned it before, the fact that only 300 gigs were installed last year and we need 1,000, it's a clear indicator. You know, and that's always coming back to asset per asset. You replace an asset, and this asset needs to be competitive. Yesterday we had the Roland Berger panel as well, and they presented a very nice study about the worst 1,000 assets in the world, non-energy related. So all of us, I'm one of this 1,000, right? And this 1,000 assets need to be replaced. So it's not so difficult. It's very clear. And asset per asset needs to be replaced, and asset per asset needs a business plan, and asset per asset needs a front runner risk. And we, at the same time, we need to make you and so these three here, they need to scale up things. You know, we are not prepared, not at all, in hydrogen, so in electrolyzer production, to be serving all these initial demands that we have. So this is something where also we need to take a look to the complete infrastructure part. Just take transport. You have been mentioning transport before. Transport with all the due respect, hydrogen into ammonia, ammonia then back to hydrogen, it's very expensive. So what we need is pipelines.
Yep.
There is an initiative in Europe which is H2Med, connecting Portugal, Spain through France to Germany, which is the right thing to do. 5 TSOs are working on that. We are too late, but at least they have been saying we have been making a lot of progress in 1 year. Also there, same thing. Let's look what is the pipeline capacity that we need. That's an additional asset for me, and then let's build it. These 3 countries or 4 countries, they can come to a conclusion. You know, I don't think that we should wait for financial institutions. It's asset per asset, and then public-private partnership. Let's be pragmatic.
Pragmatic. Ms. Fernandez, what would be if the IIA is looking at the financing issue? We very often have this off-take problem, things are not competitive. So what would be the recipe of the IIA for raising all of this money which is necessary, and it goes into the trillions globally?
No, yeah, I'd just like to echo, I think collaboration and partnerships here are really important. I mean, we cannot wait to learn from one project and then pass these learnings to another project on how this was done, and then do this for every sector, for every country, for every continent. We need to work in parallel because we cannot wait. And indeed, I think from the technology side of things, as you know, was the topic of the discussion, I think the good news is that things are ready. We don't need necessarily kind of revolutionary technologies here to reach net zero. We will need improvements for sure. We need to be more effective. But really the challenge now is to scale. And I think this is very obvious, and industries are ready for that as well. So from that perspective, indeed, I mean, we fully agree with that vision. I think partnership in a way to de-risk these initial projects in a way that at the same time we use technology also to share the knowledge and on this transparency and all these tools that have been mentioned, so that we could make sure that if there is these developments, of course, are at the forefront in Europe, but we need to do that not only in Europe, we need to do that in the whole world. And for some of these sectors, we're thinking about steel, cement, shipping, aviation, I mean, they are international, but we expect most of the growth as well to happen in emerging markets and developing economies. So we need to think through as well on partnerships that can not only finance these projects in Europe or in Western countries, but also how we could develop these partnerships, also having in mind where these technologies can be deployed at massive scale. We've been talking about, I think it's a very important point about the pragmatism of how we turn out the existing fleet and the existing assets. And the second phase of this, or the second look at this, is like how we are going to make sure that, for all the investment decisions that are coming up for new infrastructure to produce materials, to produce fuels, to develop infrastructure, we are not locking in an issue, but we are really making the right investment decision. And so it's also about how we, make sure that all this new infrastructure will be built, learning from this technology. So for me, if I could summarize, so indeed scale up and collaboration, but at different stages, on finance, on technology, learnings, on business models could be the key.
So we have 10 more minutes left. I would like to bring in the audience. Is there any question from the audience? Yeah, Oliver. I think, yeah, there's one spare.
Yes, thank you. I don't think I have to introduce myself, but after listening to this very distinguished panel and this very, very good discussion, I think, my impression is that to overcome all the obstacles you were mentioning, we are looking for something like a collective action between government and business on how to approach the net zero economy by 2050, on how to accelerate procedures and reduce bureaucracy, and to boost innovation and technology. My question to the industry representatives, are we on the right track? Is there a common understanding between the government and the business community what has to be done? And if not, what is needed to make this a last step to move from discussion, from debating to action?
Maybe I can.
Yeah.
Maybe I can start from my perspective, and you introduced me already. I'm part of the National Hydrogen Council, and there was a certain point in time when I said, enough is enough. I don't have to waste my time writing papers, advices, how we gonna ramp up hydrogen. I think after having had several discussions, serious discussions from the council with politicians, now we found a way. But it took too much time, really too much time. We were too slow. There were good ideas from industry representatives, from others, where and you still can find it in the internet, our advice, the 50 points which we have mentioned there in how to spend the money, because the money was there. It was a pity that we haven't, let's say, got the grip to the ground. So the ideas are there, the money was there, but we couldn't found a way how to bring the speed to the ground. We learned it. So we don't give it up, but I think there needs a closer alignment between politicians and industry sector. And only together we can make it happen. If the one or the other goes into the one or the other direction, we will not make it happen. We will not achieve net zero. And sometimes the rules and regulations are totally contradictory to what we want to do. Because there's a lack, sorry to say, on the political side of understanding how to drive it. They don't have the technical background, and we do not have the political background. So it needs both. It really needs both. And we can only, and I can only repeat it once again, we have to work closer together to make these roadmaps, the master plans, which are on the table, to make that happen.
I think we have a next question.
Yeah, Sebastian Brandes from mentioned we work in Africa. Alluding to the last question, or the point you made, and the IEA report saying that Africa already has 50% renewable energy, and some countries already have up to 100% renewable, very cheap, by the way. Wouldn't it be an option to build new plants, for example, for steel in Africa, and you decarbonize very quickly? As a way, 20, 30 years ago, we had workers cross arbitrage to China and Asia. Why wouldn't we do energy arbitrage in Africa and support and invest Africa as well?
Yeah.
Nothing. You don't do steel, right? Okay, so that's for me. Well, that's a good. Probably the question that will be very influential in the future, not only for steel but for many other industries. We were debating that yesterday, how the CO2 debate will influence future industrial hubs, and how to distribute wealth in the world in a different way, because in the end, why it's going so slow, because we don't want the ones having the wealth, they don't want to lose it, and the other ones, they need to get it, and both things are understood. So I think there might be the need for both. We need in Europe and in Germany a very strong competitive steel industry, because it's also not very climate friendly to have this much of transportation around the world, you know, with all the respect also to shipping. And, you know, there are things that need to be shipped, but there are many other things that probably should not be shipped around the world as it is today. So I think the answer to your question is we will have the need for both. We will have the need for using the countries in the northern part of Africa. Even we were talking about Namibia the other day, you know, where we have a lot of space available. We have a lot of green energy that can be built there, and also some industry that can be placed there. But we need also a very strong base, primarily steel, in Europe and in Germany in particular, because we need to support our customers and the industry in Germany. And you know, 80% of our customers of steel are within 500 kilometers reach. So we need to bring competitive everything to our plant in Duisburg.
Yeah, it's very, very obvious. So having had many talks like with Stefan Kaufmann and others, with Australia and others in the region here. So if you talk about green hydrogen, very, very soon, so the conversation starts to spread out to green iron or other parts of the value creation structure. And the question is it more an appetite, or is it really a opportunity, a possibility to do it other places? So I would say I will resume now with one very short science fiction round. I like to ask you, so we've talked a lot about innovation and technologies we have today. I would really like to ask you very short answers. What technologies do you see which might perhaps really bring us over the top in the future, in the more distant future? Is there anything which we are just remotely talking about, or is it just making those things we have today just better and more efficient? Perhaps Siemens, you are on the front line of innovation.
Well, not only is it that the current technologies need to be deployed in an efficient way, but it's also really the topic of digitalization. And what we see in adapting generative AI also in the industrial sphere is something which will open up opportunities also for countries that need to put industries in areas which they have not had before. I mean, training, education, but also then deploying this type of technologies with industrial co-pilots. Using, for example, digital twins and also the industrial metaverse to connect and collaborate together with people across the globe in supporting local initiatives. I think that is something that would definitely be one of my future hopes.
Yeah. 100% agree. I think Gen AI and quantum computing, because for an energy system which is like becoming more and more complex, that's the only way to steer it in a way that we save energy and that we make sure it's really green and that we use everything we have. So yeah, quantum computing and Gen AI.
As I'm getting every day a little bit more a molecule guy, so what I think would be super interesting would be, and we are working on this as well with partners, to capture the CO2 directly from the air. Because, you know, the big thing to decarbonize all the assets, that's very necessary, but to create technology that is capturing the CO2 directly from the air, that would be really a big thing.
Yeah. That was also my topic, because we just had a management conference, and the project which we have with Porsche right now in Chile is with direct air capturing. And what is not mature so far and what is not working is the DAC. That's for sure. And if we really agree what we have signed at the Paris Climate Conference, there's no other way than to take CO2 out of the air. And having said that, for me, CO2 also is going to be a product in the future. So it's going to have a price. Yeah. We need also CO2 to produce alternative fuels. Whether we take it out of the air or whether we take it out of the steel production, I think also in the future CO2 is gonna be a kind of a business model, entering into a circular economy where we have in the industry states like Germany, where we produce CO2, take it out, better than let it back to the air, bring it to the areas where electricity is cheap, and then reuse it. It's better than just let it out in the air. So CO2 and the mindset which we have in Germany, and I think the mindset has started already to change, that CO2 is going to have a value and it's going to be a product. Because to produce synthetic fuels, we need it. Look at the maritime sector. We need to replace around about 300 million tons of heavy fuel oil with, let's say, methanol. By doing that, you need around about 150 million tons of hydrogen. And nobody's talking about the CO2. We need 7 times more, which means 700 to 800 million tons CO2. And where do we gonna get it? Yes, of course, out of the air. That would be the best way, but maybe capturing it from industry sector where it's hard to avoid that we have the CO2 like steel, like cement.
Ms. Fernandez, you got the last word on future technologies. Probably the IAA has a hidden cabinet.
Yeah, so we monitor very closely different technology developments. We have a cool tool that is called Clean Technology Guide that follows more than 550 technology designs across the whole energy sector. But I could say, I mean, I wouldn't focus on a particular one, but I could say that to me, the key kind of innovative aspect is that I don't think we need any revolutionary kind of principle or fundamental, scientific basis for the technology concepts that we've been discussing. I mean, there are different stages. They have, most of them, really reach large prototype stage, and they need to really these first demonstrations and get to the market in massive scale. But I don't think we need fundamental kind of different scientific, principles here. So to me, this is one of the, positive aspects of innovation. So to me, the key point for innovation is that it really needs to keep focusing on, even if a technology reaches the market, how we can keep improving it in the way we manufacture it, in the way we integrate it in the system, in the way it gets more efficient. Because ultimately, once we've got all these technologies on the ground, the point would be about, making sure that we can use the natural resources we need in the most efficient way. And electricity will be a key commodity that will be very, demanded. Sustainable carbon source will be a commodity that will be in high demand as well. So how we make sure that we use those resources in the most wise possible way. So that will be my takeaway.
Well, thank you. I have to thank you all here on the panel and in the audience. It was very impressive. I mean, so industry is definitely and clearly on the way. But of course, we see there's a lot to be done. And there are quite some obstacles to scale. And I take away that it's unleashing innovation, it's unleashing technologies, and especially unleashing money to bring all of these technologies up to a scale where we need it to reach our targets. Thank you. And Oliver, you want to wrap it up? Okay. Yeah. So I thank ICC, Oliver Wieck, and I thank especially our Ministry for Economy and Climate Protection for being our host here at the German Pavilion. And thank you for coming, and I wish you a wonderful COP day and week.
Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP28 in Dubai. Ambitious, just together.